hates Bärbel Bas here in Germany? I really can't understand that at all. Feel free to write in the comments below if you don't totally love Bärbel Bas for what she does. And yes, if you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. But let's talk about the topic of Bärbel Bas again. A controversial report has just come out. All people, well, almost all people, hate Bärbel Bas.
At the Ständehaus meeting in Düsseldorf, SPD politician Bärbel Bas talked about her experiences with massive hate and personal hostility.
Wait, stop, before I forget. The SPD dropped to 11 in the latest election polls yesterday and is close to single digits. Of course, I'm rooting for the SPD, the old SPD, that they finally managed to drop below the 5% mark. But let's be honest, first you pick a fight with the employers, get laughed at by them, and then you start, well, waging a campaign against them. At the same time, well, you label a lot. Many German people who were born here are called brown. I don't even want to say it. And then you're surprised after having ruined this country with your policies that people hate you. I don't know, Miss Bas, but maybe you should start with yourself. Well, my grandma, I don't know if you know this saying, but feel free to let me know. Yeah, she always said you should sweep your own doorstep first before worrying about other people's. Not sure. Is this saying common throughout Germany?
I've become this kind of personified enemy figure. What you have to read doesn't just roll off you that easily, said the 58-year-old. Bas reported pure hatred and rape fantasies on social networks.
First of all, about those fantasies, sorry, I can't go along with that at all, and I don't want to. I really think that's a bit too much. But about the hatred, well, when you tell Germans that people are coming here and not immigrating into the welfare system, and then a week later you say, yes, we have to let them immigrate into the social welfare system to create more colorful diversity here in Germany, then you shouldn't be surprised if Germans eventually have had enough, as we've just seen in the new election polls. The CDU has now managed to get back up to 23, but the FDP has completely crashed, now at 11%. Could it be because nobody wants to have anything to do with these politicians anymore, for example?
And the second thing is, this applies to practically all parties, except for the AfD. I have to say, unfortunately, there is a total academization of the parliaments. So I once asked my party, tell me, what actually happens if someone comes forward and says, well, I smoke. By the way, I like to eat meat. I really enjoy going on all-inclusive vacations to Mallorca. I watch RTL series. Soaps, to be completely honest, I even have a pin-up hanging in my locker. Do you kick them out immediately, or do they first face several re-education attempts?
All right, now hand on heart, I really want to know from you, especially the men who still remembers the page one girl, picture one, regulated away. The people he just mentioned, they don't exist in the SPD anymore, meaning the workers here in Germany. The people, yes, like in the past, who used to make fun of women, who used to whistle after women and so on. It was normal as a craftsman. But I also brought the other side with me as a banker. And yes, even there we looked at the Bild newspaper and also the pin-up girl on page one, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in training back then, and I think Katie Price was on page one back then with Formula One. And the Bild newspaper was sold out everywhere and nobody complained about it. And that's exactly what the German citizen wants to have back. That's why he doesn't go to the old parties anymore. That's why they're losing. And that's why so many people hate Miss Bärbel Bas. And I honestly admit it's the enemy image that I have personified. In my opinion, this woman is absolutely unacceptable. And everything I would wish for her, I wouldn't even say in front of a running camera.
She criticized that especially right-wing networks try to bring down strong, confident women with hate and personal attacks. Despite the stress, she doesn't want to withdraw.
Ms. Bas, those are no longer just right-wing networks, they're just a bit louder. You are hated by most people here in Germany. You are from the 11 SPD party. We don't want this government anymore, and what do you do when you hit rock bottom in the polls? What do you do when you're as unpopular as a stone in your shoe during a marathon? That's right, you keep going. You keep going. To completely destroy the old lady of the SPD. And there's no going back to, well, the ways of the workers here in Germany, the hard-working population. And now, unfortunately, I also have to tell you the inflows are collapsing. You're not getting enough for the next elections anymore. And the SPD, they're paddling for their lives, really for their lives, somehow trying to find new values and trying to acquire votes here. And at the same time, these horror news stories keep coming in.
The Federal Employment Agency expects an even higher deficit than previously assumed. The shortfall will be over 5 billion euros this year.
Well, the estimated range is already somewhere between 8 and 9 billion in the red, but they don't want to cut social benefits. The question I'm asking myself, though, wait a minute, the unemployment numbers are actually going down. So there are fewer and fewer people who are unemployed and registered at the employment office. Could it maybe be because of the bureaucracy? In response, Bärbel Bas, of course, already has a great answer to that. Yes, now they want civil servants to pay into the pension fund. And, well, now the private health insurance companies are suddenly starting to panic, because that will once again cause maximum destruction in the private health insurance companies. By the way, I definitely think that we should really have a committee and a roundtable calculate this exactly, to even get a clear idea of who actually pays what and where. Because at this point, they can't do any more damage, and eventually these parties will be finished and over.
The SPD politician also admitted her own mistakes. But it's important to take responsibility and make sure that our community isn't destroyed by hate and hostility.
What kind of reputation do they actually still have? Who really looks up to this woman anymore? Oh, right, 11 of the voters do. By the way, many people don't even know that they're even voting for the SPD because some of them are now in nursing homes. By the way, I don't blink so much because I have the Heidi Reichen neck syndrome, but because something flew into my eye this morning. Not that someone will say, hey, have you switched to the left party? No, I definitely haven't. So the blinking isn't because of that. All right, just very quickly back to Bärbel Bas. She admits her own mistakes and doesn't want to change anything, but just stays on course with this structural SPD. More people into the social systems, money grows on trees, and she will definitely not take any responsibility. And yes, she believes that this will push back hatred, especially from right-wing people. And by now, we also know that people consider everything beyond the SPD to be right-wing. It just depends on whether you're hardcore right-wing or just slightly neo-fascist right-wing, like, for example, the CDU or